Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Unsung Podcast. Today I'm joined by Lita. She is a fitness coach, boxing trainer, just an amazing badass that I had to get on my show. Um, 45 amateur boxing bouts, two professional boxing bouts. Has trained alongside Olympians for 15 years, has eight Nigerian goats. Uh, Motivational speaker, just women's empowerment. Lita, welcome to my show and thanks for coming on with me.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Let's tell everyone a little bit about you. I'll just hand the mic over to you for now.
So I'm a motivational speaker and boxing coach. I've been coaching part-time for over 20 years and full-time in the last 9 years. My background is with the Bachelor of Sciences in Nursing and like you said, 45 amateur fights. And I won the 2013 Light Welterweight Golden Glove Championship of Canada. And then I had two pro fights after that, and I switched over to coaching full time. And I specialize in coaching Parkinson's and women. So essentially, I help women increase their energy while decreasing their emotional and physical pain so that they can have the confidence and trust in their bodies that they deserve. And I'm really passionate about coaching people on movement as medicine, health as wealth, but most importantly, that boxing saves lives. And I began boxing in 2004. So essentially, the kind of short version of my story is that I was a sole mom. My son's father at the time didn't take any responsibility, didn't show up to court. There was emotional abuse in that happened. And so that was already like one knockdown that kind of happened in my life. And then less than a year later, when after my son was born, he was diagnosed with a rare and at times life-threatening blood disorder called hemophilia B. So I kind of really felt that all life had in store for me was sucker punches. So I began coping in an unhealthy way, like reaching for the bottle. And that kind of caught up to me. And one night I had a bit of an altercation with some girls out at a party after the bar one night, and it could have ended really badly. It ended badly for them, but it could have ended like, really badly for me to be like, I could have been charged with this aggravated assault. And I knew that my life needed to take a different direction to be a proper parent for my son. And so that's how really the short end of how I got into boxing. And it's done so much to save my life, that I'm so passionate about that, especially now empowering women to help take back their power and really help eliminate violence against women.
I watched a speech that you gave just before we came on here, and some of the statistics you were saying really blew my mind about domestic violence. I mean, I had honestly no idea. I mean, I knew a little bit here and there from the days and the trending hashtags that come up every once in a while, this domestic abuse day, blah, blah, blah. But it really blew my mind. I had no idea it was that large.
Yeah, it's really like in the in my speech I say it's like I don't understand like how were we in 2025 and we have like instant communication like this, like we're on the internet, we have like artificial intelligence that does the thinking and editing and all that kind of stuff for us. You're in a metropolitan city, you order something on Amazon or whatever delivery company and it comes to you in the next few hours, but we still have the stats and we still have behavior in our society against women and marginalized people that is still like caveman ways of behavior. Like I just don't get it. Like we're so evolved as humans, but we're still so we just there's so much healing. There's so much healing that needs to be done. And I don't mean it as in I want to be very mindful of the words that I choose because it's not just about pointing fingers. And I say this a lot, it's not about pointing fingers and like this person did this wrong and that person did this wrong. It's about collaboration and connection for all of us to heal, And I just did a podcast the other week with, I can't remember who it was now, which guest it was, but I think it was Lynn Moore. She's a lawyer in Newfoundland, and she does advocacy for trauma, and she represents trauma victims. And what happens when there is like a circle of empowerment and healing, there's a lot less recidivism that occurs for those that have been those who have victimized others. So it's important, like as I share this message, to say that it's important that we provide compassion and kindness as well to those who are also in the victimizers, and supporting them in their healing journey as well.
Now, 2020, of course, the Rona and all the COVID stuff, has that gone downhill? It seems like so many friends I've had, like since 2020, have gotten divorced or just people got sick of each other and just that, how do you see that affecting those numbers?
Oh yeah, like the worldwide stats in terms of like violence and domestic violence, trauma, human trafficking went through the roof. So I think because you're not as much, people weren't as connected, right? And I think, like, not to get into like conspiracy theories or all like that, but it was all about power and control, right? Which allows those who want to take more power and control over those who are marginalized to exploit that. So for me as a woman to educate other women about stepping into their power and using their voice, especially through the self-defense and art form of boxing, because it's not just about physically standing up for yourself, it's also about emotionally and energetically and boundaries, which boxing teaches you to stand up for yourself. So you're a lot more aware about what's going on. You're a lot more in tune with your instincts. So you're not taken advantage of in these kinds of situations, or you have the mental capacity to understand the stress. Like COVID, I'm so happy it's over. But COVID was like horrible for so many people on so many different levels.
Well, for me, I was training for my first charity fight, which was
Oh my goodness.
supposed to happen just when COVID started. So it got canceled, and then I moved an hour away, so it never happened. But for me, it was just like my fire was still going from boxings, and I learned so much, so I got to do this all at home. So instead of blowing up, I kind of went the opposite and managed to stick with it pretty good until everything opened back up. And then I got so addicted to boxing, I started showing, some local kids how to do it. And this mom had reached out to me and she's like, listen, my daughter's being bullied. She's really overweight at school. She's like the only overweight person almost in the whole school. And she's 12. And of course, I had an 8-year-old daughter at that time. So I'm like, just come bring her over. I'm not going to charge her anything or whatever. But we did 10 sessions with her. And her bully came up to her and like, we're going to fight today at 7-Eleven. She's like, okay. So she she didn't knock her out. She didn't use the tools, but she learned how to dodge a punch. She learned,
Yeah,
and then she grabbed her by her arms and put her up against the wall and said, "Listen, this is where you stop fucking with me." And
yeah.
hasn't had a
Yeah,
problem
that's
since,
it. Like, it's
right?
not that you use violence for violence, it's that you stand your boundaries and your ground. Like, and it's amazing to hear stories like that. Like as you know, boxing saved your life, boxing saved my life. And it's not just about like the violence aspect of it, it's the fact that you're not going to put up with bullshit.
Yeah,
like you know and it's he's not being a bully to someone else, but it's saying like whoever's bullying you, whether it's like the systems, whether it's another person like this girl like that was teasing this girl for being overweight, it's like standing your ground and stepping in your power and saying no
yeah.
and meaning it. So because it's energy too,
Well,
you know.
the thing I love personally most about boxing is the community. I mean, there's guys I've worked it with 5 years ago that I'm still like I consider best friends. Like I was I walked into a boxing club in Calgary for the first time and I met the owner because there was a situation where they invited me in just to see what it was like. And I was still a bigger dude. I was already 100 pounds down, but Steve the Dragon Cleggett, he's got 4 titles, just an amazing dude. He stops his like professional training, comes out, walks over to me, and he says, "You know what? Let's get this champ." And him just saying that word champ to me has
Yeah.
stuck with me for 6 years.
Yeah.
So if I'm ever at a gym and I see like someone that look like me or someone struggling or just someone, I just walk up and say, "You know what? You got this champ." Just knowing how the being that moment of kindness can impact someone for the rest of their life.
Exactly. And that's what the majority of the boxing community is about, right? There's always going to be outliers. There's also always going to be kind of egos. But as the general whole, the community is about raising each other up and, matching your boxer up with this boxer or supporting this event and that event. It's taken a long while for women in boxing to kind of gain that notoriety. But I mean, that is this synergistic a community that just gives people the support and ability to like navigate the punches that life is actually throwing at them. Like the boxing gym was my safe haven for years because just life's shit was just so much.
So your desire to help women and boxing and the fitness coach and trauma, where did that come, like that desire come from for you?
Yeah, it's one that runs like I'm almost finished my Dildo Dilemma Humor in the Face of Trauma ebook. And it's a bit of a journey. It's an emotional journey when you're going through your story. Because I had an incident when I was a child, and it was never acknowledged, as most, I think, youth of our generation and generation that are older. It's like things like that were just, you know, what do you call it? Brushed under the rug,
Hmm.
as the saying goes, right? Like that this was way before Me Too and all that. And I didn't understand the psychological trauma of it. And then I love my father, but my father was very much a tyrant's man growing up. And your voice wasn't heard. Like if you spoke out, like it wasn't seen as a positive thing. So all these kind of things added up to my mental health, like understanding it now, because so many years I had so many questions like, why am I acting this way? Why am I, like feeling like a victim? And why do I like degrade myself? Like all these questions. And so through boxing and being able to stand my power and learn how to protect myself, really have that lightning like focus, it really helped me overcome these sense of trauma and give me the tools mentally to really believe and achieve the things that I set my mind to. And I did two women's event in 2018, 2019. I trained a women's boxing training camps. And one of the women, she had experienced forms of violence and trauma. And through boxing, she's just like completely changed herself through the training
Hmm.
camp and that. So she was just like, she really helped her depression and everything. So I think that's what I'm really passionate about because a lot of women don't see boxing as that it's a form of everything we think of like violence, right? Most people who don't understand boxing don't understand the sweet science behind it. And there's so much respect and camaraderie that comes from it and so much uh empowerment and so much community and collaboration that comes in that world and environment that I want to pass those analogies and mindsets beyond the ring to help women fully understand that, like no matter what's going on in your life, if you understand these principles and you practice these principles, you'll be able to stand up for yourself and prevent something from happening or trust yourself enough to listen to your gut so these things don't happen.
I've seen some pictures of you holding pads, and I've held pads for quite a few people, and I'm sure you'll get this, but when I've got someone in front of me that's been going through shit or I'm just working out with, and I tell them like, listen, look at that glove. You put every bit of rage you have in that glove, and you're gonna hit this pad. And
Yeah.
that first pop, people's faces when they make that sound
Yeah.
just gets my blood going. Like not even doing it myself anymore, but when you're holding that pads and someone just takes all that rage or whatever,
Yeah.
puts it in that first jab or that hook, I don't think there's anything like it.
Yeah, it's that sense of connection. Like I am so much more powerful than I think I am, or I know that I am in those first few punches. Like it's so impactful to a person's psyche and well-being. And
Yeah,
that's why I'm really passionate about spreading and like coaching women in boxing, right? Like so
that also works really well with a medicine ball too. When you tell them to think about the worst moment of your life and you put it on that ball and you slam it to the ground. That's so I gotta ask you as well. I read you're working with Olympians.
Mhm.
And have any of them ever made the podium? Like, have you been able to w watch that, witness that? What's that like? Or just,
Uh, well, I met Lennox Lewis before. So Adrian Teodorescu was my coach for about 4 or 5 years when I was in Toronto, my first few years that I came to Toronto back in 2008 to 2012. Lennox is a really cool guy, super down to earth. So, um, I met Lennox, and then the other Olympians. I should finish that story first. Is that Lennox was Adrian trained him. Arnie McBean was like Lennox's main coach throughout the years, but Adrian Teodorescu was the Canadian Olympic coach for a number of years, and Adrian took the boxing community of Canada like really far. So it like, medaled, right? Like everybody had mad respect for Adrian. I say mad respect because he passed away in 2016. And Lennox always called up Adrian before his major like title fights or big title fights and would get his like analysis in terms of what he should be doing because Adrian literally had a PhD in boxing. He had like over 400 amateur fights when he was in Romania. So
oh,
uh, the man lived and breathed sport and boxing. Like it's just there was so much knowledge in his mind. Like I was so thankful to learn from him before he passed away. And then I watched. So, for those of you that might not be aware of women's boxing itself, boxing, Olympic style boxing was one of the first Olympic sports, but it was the last Olympic sports to enter women, like last Olympic sport to evenly have men and women in competition in 2012. So Mary Spencer from Windsor was the very first Canadian Olympian to go to the Olympics, and she had a what do you call it? What do you call that? Like a rivalry with Ariane Fortin. So Ariane Fortin was a Quebecois, and so Quebecois in Ontario. When you went to the nationals, when you go to the nationals, I'm sure it's still going on. I haven't been involved in the amateur world at that level for a few years, but it was always a bit of a rivalry. But then when the spots of Olympics, and there was only 3 weight classes for women's Olympics that were available for the 2012 qualifications. So there was so much shifting that happened with weight categories. And Ariane was a southpaw. I was a southpaw. So Mary used to come in and train with me a lot in Toronto to spar to get ready for Ariane. So that was one of the things that I'm thankful for to have experienced and witnessed that actually happening in person because that was a huge piece of women's boxing history. And then Chechen Wolf Arthur. The Wolf was another one who would come into Grant's MMA and train with us. He was a southpaw. Really good jab. And then Troy Ross was another one that would come into Adrian's gym and at Atlas and train. And Troy is a really down to earth, awesome guy. The only guy I was ever proud of to say, like, I got a little bit of mouse after sparring with him, and I went around for about a week and a half, like, you know who gave me this black eye? Troy Ross gave me this black eye.
nice.
Uh, but it's the with training with Olympians and training with world champions, like I was saying to you in our chat, like Elias Theodoro, he was known as the Spartan. He passed away in 2022. He was the first Canadian versus Australia UFC to win that title for Canada. So it's like when you are around people like that, and that's what they say, like you hear it said, um, proximity is power. Like the one of my coaches say, proximity is power because people who are doing elevating themselves and you're around that, it elevates you as well and it inspires you to want to be more and it motivates you to want to be more. So it's important to surround yourself with the best of your ability, the best that you can. And what I was going through in my life with my son and everything, it was like it was fuel to me, to drive me forwards when like I would have like 3 hours of sleep from working so much, or like having to spend hours on emergency in the hospital with my son. These people that inspired me and motivated me and considered me at their level, and I saw myself at their level as well, really helped fuel me to keep going forwards and not let life take me over.
That's amazing. Just how is your son now? Is he?
He's great. He just turned 22 this
Oh
past
my
week.
goodness. Wow. Okay.
He just turned 20. We was fortunate. I was in Toronto for 12 years, and one of the main reasons besides boxing was Sick Children's Hospital is the number one hospital, I swear, in North America. And if it wasn't for that hospital and the drug trial, he wouldn't be where he is right now.
Wow.
Like I still donate to them and I still touch base with the staff once a year to update them on what's going on because they had such an impact in support in my life. And anybody who's watching this, with parents who have been involved with Sick Children's Hospital, will tell you the exact same thing. Like that hospital, they do it all right.
That's I was nervous to ask that because I didn't know, and that's very nice. That's good to hear. So I had another story on here that went a whole different way, and that was a whole different episode. But
Yeah, and everybody has different journeys in the way your life unfolds. And
for sure,
and through my mental health experience, is like I have a total new perspective and way of dealing with people when I'm working in mental health and nursing because you don't know what someone's journey is.
yeah.
You don't know the things they've been through. So we don't have any, it's not for us to judge. It's hard because we're human and that's kind of comes with us being human, but being aware of these biases and things like that really helps to have compassion and understanding for what someone else is going through.
Well, it's so amazing because I've been doing this little live music session on TikTok, which we talked about, and I've been watching people play, and I'm part of a few groups, and it's just some people like I did it myself, right? Some people you look so happy. And then we did this mental health open mic show, and all these people just started opening it up. I had no idea any of these people were going through anything.
Yeah.
And this one lady, I won't say their name or anything, but she opened up and she messaged me after. She said, "I've never talked about that." And an hour later, she posted a video that she was starting to write a song about her mental health journey just from that one little episode. So you never know. Like if five people watch this, if 100 people watch this, it's about impact, right? Like you never know who's watching that might need to hear something.
Yeah.
And then now I'm eventually going to have this person on my podcast show to play the song and talk about their mental health. And they're like, I didn't have that on my 2025 bingo card. I'm like, you're damn right. I didn't have that either. So here we are. So you never
Yeah.
know who's listening. There was a lady I did a podcast with about 6 months ago, and she said to me, because she had seen my story on like Fox and CNN and stuff, she's like, listen, I've only got like 5 to 7 listeners a week on my YouTube shows. I'm like, I don't care. Like, if one of those people is me 10 years ago thinking about if anyone would give a shit about me if I leaped off a balcony and they reach out and get help, it sounds really cliche, but that's what
It's
I'm
not
about.
fiction. And I think in this dopamine addicted society, and this is something that I've been coached over in the last year, and and social media does that to us, because it's about the likes and it's about the followers and it's about like I'm pointing my finger, but because that drives the algorithm and it feeds the powers that be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and I hope those that are watching this, it's not, it is, like you said, about the impact, because you don't know. There's so many times in the last like little while where I've had something happen or somebody say something, and because I've gotten caught up in that rat race. Oh, I don't have enough likes or I don't have enough followers.
Hmm.
It's not about that. Like it's about your message and it's about connecting human to human And it's about how we're helping one another. And most importantly, it's how we're helping to heal this world so we can elevate and leave a better place for our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren.
Well, you know what? After one of my episodes, I'm at the point now where I laugh at trolls. They used to give me anxiety and panic attacks, and they would mess me up for weeks. But one guy, after my first episode, he's like, "Your voice is as soothing as what does he said? He said like a dental office background noise. I would rather listen to." And I'm like, "Well," and he's like, "Oh, and you got to work on that Newfie accent." I'm like, "You know what, man? Go pound sand." Like my Newfie accent used to be so bad. And then when I got drunk, it get even 20 times worse. Nobody could understand a word I'm saying. But then I stopped in Toronto.
But
I stopped in Toronto for 7 years, and now I lived in Calgary, Alberta for 13 years. So my accent, it's a little bit of every part of the part of the country. So I don't really care. If you're out there and you don't like my voice, you know what? Hit the
and
mute
I'm gonna
button.
I'm gonna say what I said to another podcast that I was on is like it's um, perception is projection, right? And those who are always going to tear you down are just they're the ones that are hurting the most.
Yeah,
You know, it's hard. I totally understand. I don't totally get that, especially with mental health. And mental health is health. You know, it's hard to not take it personally. But when people are pointing a finger, there's three fingers pointing back at them.
exactly. No, I do have one other question for you too. I'll get a whole bunch of other questions, but I went from Newfoundland to Ontario. You went from Ontario to Newfoundland in the middle of a near the place dildo, the infamous dildo. How the hell did that happen? It's never that way around.
I know it's not, right? And ironically enough, because as I said to you, I'm going through my book and I've got the goal to finish by April 1st. Is like I was training for nationals one winter. And my parents were living here full time for 2 years. So for on and off for a number of years, they were half the time in Newfoundland, half the time in Ontario. So my dad's originally a Newfoundlander. And I came at Christmas time. And so I still had to keep my road work up, right? Because it was like not even a month later when I get back to Toronto, I'd be going to nationals. So you got to keep your cardio, keep up. And I remember running like with the sleet and the rain and near the ocean. And I was like, I'm never motherfucking moving to Newfoundland. This is horrible.
Someone said to me once when like uh Terry Fox started his Marathon of Hope in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Like that's brave. I met him
Yeah.
when I was 5 years old. He was coming through Gambo, Newfoundland.
Oh, wow.
And me and my grandmother went up and she gave me a $5 bill to give. No, I think I got a $2 bill. She got a $5 bill. This is like 1980, right? But so it was a lot back then. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then me and my daughter got to do the Terry Fox run together out here. But just thinking of him going through Newfoundland for that first 3 weeks, like what a trooper. Like I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how many potholes he hit. Sorry, just such a bad joke. But it's just the potholes here in Newfoundland are brutal.
So let's talk about your book again, the title, because a lot of people may have heard that in the first and be like, what the hell is she talking about? Dildo Dilemma. That's why I wanted to lead in with the Newfoundland side of the story, so people might get a bit of. Have you heard anything about being the new honorary mayor of Dildo? Because I know Jimmy's never been here. Jerry D, I've seen him live, but
Yeah, yeah. So that's just what I'm like spitting out about and I'm working on, getting the word out more and more because it always sat wrong with me when I heard it in 2019, and it was like, that's great. Like anything attention to Newfoundland, that's awesome. But I was like, dude didn't even come.
yeah,
Like, Jimmy Kimmel, you're funny, but like put your money where your mouth is, man. Like
I think he sent his sidekick there, the Spanish guy. I can't remember his
Guillermo.
name. Yeah, he was there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. I'll have to share my little stint that I kind of put together. Um, Guillermo, he sent his little minion to do his work.
You know what's funny is that you live near. almost my hometown. My parents were Salvation Army ministers in that town, and my mother was actually born in Dildo. So
Ah,
I don't share that often. A lot of people like because it just goes down a whole dark road and a whole dark rabbit hole that
I
I don't
know,
want to go
but
down talking about my mother. So
straight up respect. But it's the name of the town in Newfoundland. It's the name of the town, you know. We have so many funny names here in Newfoundland, and it's never boring.
it had to be a bunch of Irish guys just sitting around drinking with a pad and a paper. Like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Let's name this one Hibbs Hole. This one's Jack's Arm, then Dildo, Conception
yeah.
Bay.
Spread
There's so
Eagle.
many of them.
What? It's a Conception Bay. Yeah, yeah. It's just you can't make that stuff up. Like,
But now here in Alberta, so one of my best friends is a former U.S. Marine, and we had a connection through a military charity that I ran, and he's black, and he says to me because he was planning a trip here to meet me during Stampede, and he's looking at place names. He's like, Dave, man, he's Jamaican. He's like, what the hell? There's a town called Slave Lake, and he was he was so floored. And the next town over from Slave Lake is called Blackie. He's like, what the hell province am I coming to?
oh dear.
So it's a whole different side of the Newfoundland. I don't know. I don't know what people were thinking there, but
Yes.
sounds equally as bad, but differently is Canada is fun.
Oh,
No, I gotta ask about your goats.
definitely.
Eight Nigerian goats and goat therapy. I saw some pictures and yeah.
8 Nigerian dwarf goats. So the power of visualization. Okay, this is how I'm gonna say, like, put it this way. So when I was deep in the gym and I would be visualizing, and I was competing a lot at a high level, I always visualized myself as the goat champion of the world, right? Greatest of all time. And then when 2020 hit, and I was like, oh, we're gonna move because I grew up on a hobby farm, and we had all kinds of animals, horses, cows, chickens, donkeys, pigs, dogs, cats, turkeys. They didn't last long. They only lived about 6 months out of the year. And but no goats. And so when I was looking in terms of moving, and I was like, I want to get back to kind of that sense of, sustainable farming, things like that. What are the two kind of best smaller animals to start with? Chickens. And I had chickens before. Don't like chickens. Chickens. My cousin's a chicken lady. She loves her chicken. She's got all kinds. The ones with the fancy hairs, like the
Yeah,
mop
yeah.
top, and the little ones, and they lay all different colored eggs. It's great. No judgment. I just don't like. I've had to look after chickens. Don't like them. Then goats. And so I started researching these goats, and I found a channel from Arizona. They have a herd of Nigerian dwarf goats and they did videos weekly. And I fell in love with their little personalities because they have so much personality. So I bought two Nigerian dwarf goats from Ontario to bring to Newfoundland because I couldn't find anything online. So I was like, well, how am I going to get a Nigerian dwarf goat when I move if there's nothing online for sale? So I traveled across country with Polly and Ivy, two Nigerian dwarf goats. And to get to Newfoundland, if you're driving, you get on a ferry.
Mm.
Okay. If that's it's seven, anywhere from the 7 short ferry to the long ferry, 16-hour ferry. I didn't know that when you get on a ferry and you have farm animals that you're supposed to let them know ahead of time. So they were like, "Oh, okay, what's in the back of your pickup truck? Oh, you goats? Okay, okay, we got to switch you around." I ended up going on this ferry with the middle of the transport trucks, that lane and that level on the ferry, and I was driving my dad's little Toyota Ridgeline with like a smaller trailer on the back. The goats were in the back of the pickup truck, and then the smaller trailer with our stuff. We got onto the trailer first. We got onto the boat first, and then we stayed overnight. Like that was an overnight ferry. And it was in the middle of COVID, right? So it was deep in the heart of COVID because we moved in July 2020. we're in the cabin, we get out, and they're like, well, you're supposed to be called. We knew that we were in the commercial vehicles, but it was all like everybody was fear mongering, and it was like, you're not allowed to leave your cabin. And they called the commercial vehicles, and they're like, commercial is supposed to come down. We're not in the like transport cabins or whatever you call them. And Buddy's like, you can't leave. You can't leave. You can't leave. We're like, listen, dude, we need to go. Like, we're being called. He's like, no. And then finally they called the recreation vehicles. We get down there. And everybody's staring at my son, my nephew, and myself. And they're like, we've been waiting for you. And so we get in, and I'm the first one that exits the from all the transport vehicles and that. I'm like, thank God I have nerves of steel from like all the things that I've been through because I typically don't drive big vehicles. And I was just like so nervous. So that's how my essentially my adventure onto Newfoundland with my two goats started. But rural Newfoundland, it's the middle of COVID. You can't get out and do things. Everybody's kind of fear-based, and I started getting addicted to goats for my mental health. So I started with two. They had a few. Do you really want me to get into the whole? I could get into goats. I got Holly and Ivy a boyfriend or a husband. His name was Bo Gigolo. Bo Gigolo got Holly and Ivy pregnant. And then they had male bucks. And I learned through that experience that the male, the buck, is the one that determines the sex of kids, just like human men do. And so I was like, Bo Gigolo, I can't grow my herd unless I get does. I'm like, you've got one more chance, buddy. He was a crazy goat. You've got one more chance to prove yourself. Did he prove himself? No.
Oh,
So I had to get rid of Bo Gigolo. He went to another farm. That's another story. And
okay.
then I got three Nigerian dwarf goats from Nova Scotia. Ivy had a few more females. And so at one point in time, I had 12 goats, and now I have eight Nigerian dwarf goats. And I do goat walks, nature therapy for the last 2 summers along the coast of where I live, Small Point, Broad Cove, Blackhead, Adams Cove. Um, to help people like just get out and stay in touch with nature and educate them. So people love it.
Do you ever get reviews or anything saying she's the goat? Like that would be awesome.
Yeah. I, but I have one of my clients, she calls me, she's like, you're the goat coach.
Oh, nice. Oh, you need to get that on a shirt. The
Yeah.
goat coach with the little horns and a head there.
Yeah. I have my goat promotions as my little goat logo.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share that all with you. So
So you were voted women's best fitness and wellness coach in 2017. Is that Canadian, North American? What's the story there?
yeah, so that was in 2017. There was an organization, Fab Female Entrepreneurs. I don't know if they're still around in Toronto or not. Melanie Fry, I keep in touch with her. She's one of the organizers. And one of my clients at the time entered my name. And out of 150 applicants, they voted me as the most fab female health and wellness entrepreneur of the year in Greater Toronto area. So I was really tickled pink to be acknowledged for that because a couple of years before that, I just started my Parkinson's program. I started coaching women, and so yeah, that's pretty much the short end of that story.
So your book, that's coming out soon. Well, have this episode up a few days before that. So once you have a link to that, you can certainly fire me that.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, the women's event at the speech I watched, how many of those have you done? And what's been because I noticed at the end you say, come talk to this goat lady in the back. So
Yeah.
how do those conversations go? What's the memorable
So
moment from that?
I've only done two live events so far. Like I said, I've just started this campaign like two months ago.
Okay.
And I'm still a coach full time, right? So it's like balancing it all. Uh, and I'm going to Ottawa here April 12th, so I'll be doing another Fearless, One Woman Fearless event, speaking there. Um, received really well. Like the two talks that I had, I have like the first talk there was about 50 to 60 people. It was the Positive Thinkers Club in St. John's, and I let the audience know like the statistic at first, like you've got it's anywhere from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 women. So you're looking around this room, one of these three or one of these two women that you've looked at are most likely a part of that statistic. And after when I do my talk, I have a handful of women that come up to me and tell me like, you're right. Like I've had this happen, or like I've had this happen to someone. So I know, in fact, I interviewed anonymously a woman on my podcast. I'm not going to say her name because she's anonymous, but less than a week later, I was at Costco in St. John's and she was in the line right next to me. And I was like, if that isn't a sign that what I'm doing, because out of like how many people on a certain day at this certain time being right next to her and her kids, and I was like, oh hey, like just normal chat, didn't discuss anything but the podcast or anything like that, but it gave me goosebumps because I knew like I know what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing now. Like this is the path that I'm on, um, because enough is enough.
It's so unreal. Like you don't think about the connections you make. Like when me and my daughter wrote a children's book about my
Stop! I love
yeah
it.
me going from 400 pounds to we did a 5 kilometer race together. And
Yeah.
so I put this on Amazon thinking nothing, it's not gonna go crazy, but I get an email about 3 weeks after from a US Navy veteran in Arkansas. And he's like, dude, the exact weekend that you did your first 5K with your daughter, I did my first 5K with my two twin daughters.
Aw.
This guy's been like my number one fan. Like our stories are so similar. We made such a
Yeah.
connection. We text each other every few days a week. Um, and it's just our stories are like he's like my American doppelganger, but he said his doctor came to him and said because he's a single dad too,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Do you want someone else raising your two girls? Then smarten the hell up." And
Yeah.
for me, it was I have visions of walking my daughter, well, nightmares of walking my daughter down that wedding aisle, and
Yeah.
visions and well, same thing now. She's gotten up there, but I looked at her and I said, "Do you want to walk her down an aisle, or do you want her carrying you down an aisle in a box?"
Yeah.
And like, it's just amazing that the bonds you make and the internet is so horrible sometimes and so many trolls, but there's so much good out there and so
Exactly.
many good connections to make.
Yeah.
And every person I've had on my show so far, I stay in contact with them, and like, it's not just a guest and move on.
Yeah.
Um, I like to do follow-ups and things and just stay invested. And if they got a new project coming out, hey, fire it at me and I'll get it out there. It's I love doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a collaboration connection. Sharing is caring. Like that. I was looking at your children's book and you're reading your story, and I was like, that is so powerful. So you'll have to give me that link so I can share it as well, because the power of stories, right? Like we're so like this is a message that keeps coming up lately, is like we're so connected, but we're so disconnected. And the more that we can share stories, especially children's stories that relate to help us connect and help us get through, because there's just so much stuff that's overwhelming in this world now.
Well, you know
People
what?
don't.
If you're down for it, when you have a spot for a guest, I'll come on to your show and we can talk about everything on my side if you want.
Absolutely,
That's
100%.
and then we can share each other's stuff, and I don't maybe I'll go try they have goat yoga here in my town, so maybe I'll go try goat yoga now. Just
Yeah. Do you want me to be honest? Just not that I wouldn't say don't try goat yoga, but I've done goat yoga like with my goats, and I've had other people who've done goat yoga not just with my goats. It's fun, like because I've done puppy yoga as well, but their hooves are really sharp. So when they actually like jump on you, it's not as relaxing as you think. When they're really, really, really little, like when they're just born in the first week or 2 weeks, but then after that, like once they get a little bigger and heavier.
See, I've never tried yoga. Right now, my favorite yoga position is downward facing nap. I'm more, I like the boxing. I think I'll stick to that. But
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
so if there's anyone out here listening that has been through a domestic violence situation or been through anything, and maybe even thinking about boxing, a lot of people never thought about boxing. What would you say to them? What's your message to anyone out there struggling?
Uh, is like take the steps, ask for help, connect with those that support you, and I have a list of resources. I don't have them off the top of my head, but there are a lot of great resources for violence against women out there. If you're fearing for your safety, have an action plan. That's very, very important. And make sure that you let those know that you trust what's going on. It's a each situation is different. I know that for sure. Um, so it's best to discuss things with someone that you feel safe with, that you can confide in. So it's important that they know what's going on. And if they support you, they're not going to judge you, which most people who you feel safe with, you feel like that, But in terms of taking back your power and you want to begin boxing, um, it's for women, it's difficult because I lived in the boxing world. It's not very accepting for women overall. Like it's very much a man's world. And it's not that they won't accept you. It's just that you don't real a lot of men, and we just went over this in the women's coaching meeting that I just had like a few days ago, is like they don't realize sometimes that the way that they approach women in the gym, or that the way that things come across. So if you are like you wanting to do that, try to find a place if you're able to that is very like your situation, Dave, right? They're very inclusive, they're very supportive, because there's a lot of places that are out there, and make friends and connect as much as you can, because it's your support network that's going to help you through the troubling times.
Beautiful. One time I walked into the boxing gym I went to, and I didn't feel like working out that day. I was lazy. I was still drinking then, so I was hungover. And then this woman is sitting in a wheelchair, just throwing jabs at a heavy bag, and I'm like, dude, wake the hell up! Like, come on, right?
Yeah.
So it's you never know what you're gonna see. I've got one more question for you. I end every episode with this silly question. Just kind of a just kind of an icebreaker after some serious talk. But my last guest actually had the highest number, but 100-meter pigeon carrying contest. How many pigeons do you think you could have in your arms at the end of 100 meters?
First off, I gotta visualize it. Second off, I gotta think about all the dynamics of carrying pigeons. So to re-paraphrase the question that you just asked me, how many pigeons could I potentially carry and still maintain in my arms at the end of 100 meters?
Correct.
If the pigeons are drugged, I could say maybe 30 or 40. If the pigeons are not drugged, maybe two or three.
Yes. One of, one of my friends said, you talk about all these heavy issues on your episodes, some controversial stuff, some conspiracy theories, but he's like, the thing is going to get you canceled. It's going to be PETA and your freaking pigeon question.
Like,
It it came from Bret Hart. I got to go to a hockey game with Bret Hart a year and a half
oh,
ago, and
wow.
it was on my bucket list, and it was the only thing left, and the radio station made it happen. But we're sitting down watching the Calgary Hitmen game together. I got to talk to him for 3 hours, my childhood hero.
That's
And I
amazing.
said, dude, I bet I can ask you a question you've never been asked in your 1,000+ interviews you've done, and you gotta buy me lunch if I'm right. He's like, you're on. So I asked him that question. He just had the same look on his face that you did. And he just like, well, holy shit, I don't know, maybe two. Yeah, like I totally stumped Bret Hart. So at the end of every episode, I throw out this pigeon question, and my friend Dan was on here. He's got cerebral palsy. He's in a wheelchair, and he watched my episodes. He prepped his answer. He had a good one, but I had another guy picking up stuff on his desk, trying to analyze it. I don't know. It's just a bit of silliness at the end of it.
Yeah. And life's so serious. Why do we have to take it so serious? It's a great question.
Exactly. Well, my last guy said she put duct tape all over herself and could probably do like 150. She
Ah,
just duct tape the
see.
pigeons to her arms, and then
Yeah.
see that's
Yeah.
the kind of shit that's gonna get me in trouble with PETA, though. I bet.
Yeah. Well, I said drug them.
Maybe I need to put some PETA trigger warnings at the start of my episodes instead of my other ones. I don't know. You never know.
No, they
So
gotta just there's no malicious intent with it.
no. So yeah. So fire me all the links. I'll put everything in the description you want, and I'll be picking up this book as well, and we can
Yeah,
any new
no.
projects you have, just fire me, and I'll put them on my page as well.
I said the dildo dilemma, humor in the face of trauma is in my women's boxing seminars. Like it's enough.
Well, you know what? I'm glad we had the conversation about Newfoundland. So now
Yeah.
people just didn't hear that dildo dilemma and think this was a whole different kind of episode. But it,
No.
it was a pleasure talking to you. And yeah,
It was great talking to you too, Dave.
all right.
So remember, everyone, movement is medicine, health is your wealth, and boxing saves lives. Um, I help make health and fitness fun and easy for you.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thanks again, David. I totally appreciate the opportunity.
Thank
And it was
you.
great. Let's definitely stay connected. I can't wait to order and read the kids' book. I'll pass it out in my community. Although my community is mostly old people, but
Hey, we tell them I'm from Newfoundland. You never know.
exactly, right? That's so cool. Oh, we're connected. So you never know how you're connected or how what we do impacts people. It's very
Yeah,
important. Okay. All
perfect. All
right.
right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.